Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Harambee Park Phase 4 community meeting. I'm Amy Linné, project manager from the Boston Parks and Recreation Department overseeing this project. I would like to thank you for coming tonight. We recognize that you're giving time from your schedule to be here, so we really do appreciate that. I would like to welcome any elected officials and staff who may be joining us this evening. I think we have someone from Representative Liz Miranda's office. And I would ask if you would like to say something, go ahead and raise your hand at this time. And then we will move on to, I think. Let's see. Michelle, are you unmuted or?
Hi, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Rochelle Centeo, and I'm a legislative aide in State Representative Liz Miranda's office. I just wanted to say thank you for holding space today. I'll drop my info in the chat in case anyone needs to connect with our office, but thank you for holding this public meeting.
Great. Thank you so much for joining. All right, we can move on next slide. So just a few items to go over before we start the presentation. So please know that this meeting is being recorded, and that way we can post it to the project webpage. It should take about a week for it to be posted, and we'll add the link to the project webpage in the chat in case you'd like to view it again or share with neighbors who were not able to attend tonight. So during the presentation, we ask that you keep your video off and microphone muted, but during the discussion session, we encourage you to turn your video on if you feel comfortable doing so. I just wanted to mention that interpretation was not requested for this meeting, but please know that translation and interpretation services are offered free of charge. So please email me to make requests for future services, and we will add my email to the chat so that you'll have it. And then actually, can you go back one slide? We'll just want to go over the etiquette there just to ensure the conversation is a pleasant experience for all and that all community members are comfortable sharing their comments, questions, and feedback. So again, my email address in case you need to reach out to me and would like to have any additional discussion. And then going through the Zoom tips. So in a moment, our design team will give a short presentation, and then we'll have a listening and discussion session. If a question or comment comes to mind during the presentation, feel free to add it to the chat and we'll address it after the presentation. So on the screen, we're showing instructions for using the features in Zoom. Once the presentation has concluded, we welcome your questions and comments verbally or via the chat. If anyone is calling in on a phone, we use *9 to raise your hand, and then once we call on you, *6 to unmute and to mute again. So if you're joining via Zoom on a computer, use the raise hand button and we'll unmute you. All right, next slide, please. So I want to thank you again for joining us tonight. So these are the topics that we are going to go over this evening. A project team introduction, the project overview, including the schedule, a brief presentation, then we'll have a listening and discussion session, and followed by closing remarks and next steps. Next slide, thank you. So once again, I'm Amy Linné, the project manager from Parks. Joining me is Christine Brandeo, community outreach coordinator at Boston Parks. Eric James from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services could not join us tonight because of another meeting conflict, but he is a great resource for community concerns. And then Weston and Sampson is the landscape architecture firm on this project. So they started working on the master plan back in 2015 and have worked on each design phase to date. So joining us from the design team, we have Amanda Gall, project manager, and Lainey Cohen, landscape designer. And Kathy, if you're still on, did you want to say?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, thanks, Amy. I did just want to just say a couple of words. I want to thank Amy for being here. I thank Christine and the design team as well. I know I have been involved in a lot of the previous work at Harambee, and I'm really excited to be able to turn that over to Amy, as I'm not able to participate as much as I would have liked tonight, but because I have another conflict. But I'm really excited that Amy has agreed to take over this project and see it through. I will be checking in with her regularly to make sure that a lot of the conversations that I've had in the past are followed through on, and we're working together to make this project and future phases a reality. So thank you, Amy, for taking it on. Thank you all for participating. And if there's any questions, you can always reach out to me and I will share information with Amy as well. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Kathy. Okay, and next slide. All right, so we'll look here at the project schedule. So we're at community meeting 1 for phase 4 of the implementation of the Harambee Park Master Plan. So for anyone who isn't familiar, we will go through that master plan work later in the presentation. So tonight we're particularly interested in your input on amenities for phase 4 and how these should be prioritized. So in addition to comments made during this meeting, we'll be gathering feedback through an online survey. So that link will be shared in the chat and also on the project webpage. So once we have gathered feedback, the design team will move forward with documentation, and construction is scheduled to start in May of 2023, and opening the project to the public in the spring of 2024. And then you'll see on the schedule the second and third community meetings for phase 4 will actually focus on the feasibility of a pump track at Harambee Park, which is a track course for bikes, skateboards, scooters. So the feasibility study will determine the interest level, where it would go, and how much it would cost. And so these meetings are going to be scheduled in December and January, and that'll be something that's coming up soon. So we'll keep you posted on that. So then I also wanted to just give an update on some other work that's going on this year at Harambee Park, separate from phase 4. So there are a couple exciting tree-related items. So Speak for the Trees, which is a local nonprofit that focuses on promoting healthy tree canopy in Boston. They're going to partner with the Parks Department on tree replacement and stewardship in Harambee Park. They've already started looking at and assessing the trees that are out there now. And then you may have heard about the Arnold Arboretum donating dawn redwood trees to the city. So 3 of those will go into Harambee Park. And then a couple other items. So the netball court along Blue Hill Ave will be resurfaced in the coming weeks. And in the spring, it will actually get a seal coat, and the court lines will be reapplied. So that's something that is a short-term fix for that court until it gets totally reconstructed as part of phase 6. In addition, the Boston Water and Sewer Commission will be working on an outfall replacement at Talbot Ave. So you may see them out there. And then the last item is regarding maintenance. So we understand that's an area of concern. So starting in the spring, we'll bring in a maintenance contractor to really focus on keeping the fields looking their best. So they'll work on aeration and amendments for those areas, with the mowing still handled by Boston Parks maintenance staff. All right. Next slide, please. So going through the project approach, so there are several components that go into public park design, one being community input, which includes what we heard during the master plan process and the input we'll hear tonight and get through the online survey, safety guidelines and regulatory guidelines such as ADA, and then the City of Boston priorities and the Parks and Recreation goals, which we'll cover in the next 2 slides. The next slide, please. So looking at those City of Boston priorities, they include expanding walkable access to parks, addressing equity, climate resilience, dealing with stormwater and extreme heat, for example, health, and then housing and community building. Next slide. And then the parks and recreation goals, accessible and available to all, diverse, balanced, and efficient mix of uses, meaningful and inclusive community engagement, adaptive and resilient landscapes, and promote connections. So with that, I will turn it over to Amanda Gall, the project manager from Weston and Sampson.
Yeah. So back in 2015, we started this master planning process and finalized the master plan report in 2017. The goal of this plan was to develop improvements that reflect the needs of the community and resulted in an overall master plan for the park with suggested construction phasing. So to give a little history of the site, back in 1892, the site was originally designated for all active recreation by Frederick Law Olmsted, and the nearby Franklin Park was intended for the passive recreation. So to this point, the park is still used heavily for active recreation, while still including some pockets of passive recreational opportunities. And once understanding the active recreational needs of the community, we started looking at pedestrian circulation. So can you go to the next slide there? One more, sorry. I'll get into all of that, all of what's going on in the master plan. But so we started looking at the circulation throughout the site and trying to understand the natural paths going through the park and tiering them as primary, secondary, and tertiary. So with the primary being the widest, because this park is in general had little trees compared to the size of it and due to the active recreation fields, we plan to strategically place the trees along the path so that they still provide shade and that vertical element that is so desperately needed out there. So by including this primary path going east to west or west to east, it provides a passage through the park that is not currently there. Also having these north-south pathways going to Talbot Ave and I think that's Westview Street or something. I'm blanking on the name of that street down there, but having the passage through allows more access amongst the community through this park and more access to it. So can we go to the next slide? So out of the 6 phases that were established in the master plan, 3 have been completed, and we're starting the 4th with this community meeting right now. So I'll get into the details of the phases in the coming slides that have been completed, but I just wanted to note that phase 5 includes 2 baseball fields, 2 basketball courts, and a small playground. And phase 6 will include 2 tennis courts, a new netball court, and a parking area around the tennis club. All right, next slide. So phase 1, we completed this one in 2018, and it consists of an accessible playground, 2 basketball courts, and pathways which would connect to future phases. This phase also included the beginning of the inner perimeter walking path that will eventually make its way around the entire site, and along with fitness areas that would be scattered along that. And also the beginning of the primary central walk is also included in this phase. So you'll see the playground's rather large, and it's an accessible playground. Instead of using ramps to get to the top of the structures, we made this this hill, which allows an accessible pathway up to the top so that kids could get over to the 5 to 12 structure easily in a wheelchair, and with an assistance could either go down a slide or and then have their wheelchair taken back, or just go back down the slope of the mound that we created. It also creates a bunch of different play opportunities with the slope in general and different challenges that are crucial for kids to experience as they grow. Right, next slide. So phase 2 we completed in 2019, and it includes 2 soccer fields, an ellipse walking loop, slash outdoor classroom and a bioretention swale that's not pictured in this rendering. But it also includes the primary central path going south or east to west along the site, which is also lit and has cameras. And so in these photos, you'll see the bioretention swale that we created. There's a little bridge that you go over to get to the primary path from Talbot Ave. And I am assuming that the outfall structure that Boston Water Sewer will be improving upon is the one that is, if you look to on the upper photo all the way to the right, it's there in the edge, but that structure actually outlets from a much larger region, and it was pretty much unknown from Boston Water Sewer where it was coming from. But we knew that it was outletting into this park, which was a low area in this region of the city, and creating a lot of flooding issues with the fields and a lot of trash issues as well. So we tried to mitigate that by directing the water away from the fields and raising the fields 2 to 3 feet to keep them dry and to just centralize the water in one area. We also implemented these gabion walls to try and help collect the trash, and planted some bioretention seeding there, which it has become more established now since this photo was taken. All right, so phase 3 included a fenced-in football field on the right and a practice field on the left. The fenced-in one has lighting, and the practice one is partially lit. And it also included a larger walking ellipse, connecting path to the primary central walk, fitness pods, and a retention basins, which you see over there to the left of the fields, kind of in that bluish color. So in general, the water table on this site is relatively high, and that means it's really close to the existing surface grades. And in some areas, we found it to be as close as 2 feet below the surface. And because of this, we designed areas for the water to collect and to do its best to percolate, but that can only occur so much when the table is so high. So to prevent flooding, we installed catch basins towards the tops of the basins. And I know there was some flooding issues this past summer, and that was in part due to the fact that the catch basins still had their silt sacks on them, which is something that gets installed during construction and removed after. And essentially they were rendering the catch basins useless in that interim time, but they have since been removed, not the catch basins, the silt sacks, and should be in much better working condition and have an actual outlet to prevent the flooding of that practice field. But the drainage, hopefully now, is better. The basins were also situated closer to the practice field in case of a large storm event. So that overwhelmed the basins, it would flood the practice field and not the main football field. Just to put this out there, the root zone mix used at the practice field is designed to help drain the field through the use of added sand in the mix. It's about a 60-40 sand to root zone ratio. And the sand helps the soil from holding on to water, and it lets it percolate a bit faster. The main field has a higher based sand content due to the fact that there's irrigation on it, which helps it perform at an even higher capacity. So both fields have been designed to drain more efficiently than the fields that were there before. We've also included in all of these phases multiple entrance nodes. And as I mentioned earlier, the fitness pods or fitness areas along the segments of the inner loop that will eventually come into a loop as all of the phases are completed. And also in this phase was a rubber surface area for cheerleading practice as well. And there was a gravel lot. It was in the rendering, you would see, if you could go back, Lainey, real quick. It's shown as parking. We were trying to get that into this project, but the funding wasn't there. So there is a temporary gravel lot there for now, but that will be a more permanent paved lot during phase 6. So getting into the phase 4 area. This is the aerial shot of it. If we can go to the next slide. Did we skip one? Was there a tree slide? Yeah, there we go. So we will be removing 19 trees along this corridor. This what used to be a pathway through the park, but has since during phase 3 construction been relocated to the left of that. You'll see it swings out a bit. So we will be removing those trees to put in a proposed cricket field, but we will be replacing 20 plus trees in kind and pruning up the large mature trees on the east side of this park. So right now there's an existing cricket field, which will be shifted to the left, an existing baseball field, which will be removed. We have the primary pathway north of this, which is lit and was installed during phase 2. And then a secondary pathway going from phase 2 area to all the way down the left of this area, but was installed during phase 3. There is an existing entrance to the lower left, and that kind of connects to the perimeter, the segment of the inner perimeter looping, like walking loop that we're putting in. We did install part of that during phase 3. And another entrance node on the lower east side, which also functions as a maintenance access. And currently there's a dirt pathway going up the east side of the park. Next slide. So this is the proposed plan from the master plan. This is not set in stone. We are here to listen to the wants and needs of the community. But from the master plan, we have 2 cricket fields. And now this graphic is showing the competition field on the right, but most likely we would shift it to the left and have that field be lit to keep all of the lighting more consolidated, the athletic lighting more consolidated within the park, being right next to the lit football field. The lower perimeter walk would be lit as well and would meet up with the primary central pathway going through the top, which also has lights. We would be, I guess you can go to the next slide. So we'll be doing edge improvements along the eastern edge. It's a bit ambiguous now, and the dirt path is not as defined. So we would be more clearly defining a walking area through there and making it a more approachable edging. We would try to continue the banding that you've seen throughout the other entrance nodes and include site furniture at the entrance node, making it more inviting. And then just making sure that there's a really good competition turf cricket field and also the other field as well, but really establishing that natural turf so it's in good condition when we hand it off. So we want to just include a few precedent images just to kind of get the wheels spinning. We want to hear definitely about the amenities related to cricket. Cricket fields, would you guys prefer bleacher seating, regular bench seating, preferred locations of where that might be would also be great to hear. Would you want a scoreboard for cricket? Just things to think about. And then some of the other amenities we wanted to point out was the ellipse benches that we've installed at the other phases at the entrance nodes. We'd probably want to carry that through here. And then in phase 1, we did these custom black curved benches, which could also be used as spectator seating as well. And then just other amenities like the cafe table. This one was actually installed in phase 1 and has a little game board on it. So we're just trying to, get some ideas from you guys of what you actually want to do there cricket related and just passive recreation related. All right, and finally, just wanted to point out the existing and future locations of cameras and blue lights. So we have 4 along the primary path, and then we have 2 along Talbot Ave and 1 at the entrance node in phase 3. We'll be putting 1 at the corner of Blue Hill Ave in the lower left during phase 6, and 1 at the end of Talbot Street up there during phase 5, and we'll be including 2 cameras during this phase. All right, so we are going to just open it up for discussion now. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
So we don't have that many people, so I'm just gonna allow everyone to unmute themselves to
Okay.
make it easier. And then we do have 1 person on the phone. If you hit *9, you can unmute and speak. So if anyone has anything to say, feel free to unmute yourself.
This is Everton Pell here, Caricom Sports Club. You mentioned there were going to be 2 cricket fields, right? In the
Yeah.
new phase? Okay. So with those 2 cricket fields, do they come with individual scoreboards or they just having 1 scoreboard?
So that's kind of what we're here to ask
Right.
you guys. Is it if a scoreboard is desired and useful for the competition field? I think that would be great to hear your input.
Okay. Yeah, I think scoreboards are desired. Yeah. Is it possible to have 1 on each field, or we just limited to 1?
Well, we can certainly take that feedback, you know, and looking at what the budget will allow
Okay.
for, we'd certainly consider that. So
Okay, perfect.
thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you for listening to me. You have to unmute, Kevin. You have your hand raised, but you have to unmute.
Good day, my name is Kevin Fagan from Caricom Cricket Club also. And I think it would be beneficial to have each field supposed to have their own scoreboard. And for the, you mentioned something about the seating. I think the bleachers, you know, because we would like to have for the visiting team and the home team,
Mhm.
we would like to have the seating that would go for both teams.
So would those typically be located on opposite sides?
Yeah, on
of the
opposite
field?
side,
Okay.
yeah, opposite sides. Because and also go back on the scoreboard. If both teams are playing at the same time, one would be using it and the other would left out. So we should have, both sides should have the scoreboard.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you very much for listening. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining us and participating. Thanks, Lainey. Yeah, so if anyone wants to also fill out the survey or forward to anyone that, you know, couldn't join tonight, it's a pretty brief survey asking specifically about amenities for the cricket fields. So yeah, we'd love to hear from anyone who's interested. So out on the court, on the fields now, are there storage containers that are used for cricket?
One second, please. Yes, we have some storage containers that that we rent, but we would like, that's one of the things that we would like to have. We would like to have a place to store our matins and cricket gears. So we would really appreciate it if we could have a storage room also.
And if I may add to that, if a storage room is not feasible, I mean, there's you can have a certain size box or like a with a hood at the top that can have a lock on that just store stuff. It doesn't have to be state of the art or anything like that. I mean, but you just need something to store your equipment and stuff like that. Something that's big enough. And if you need measurements for stuff like that, we'd be happy to buy them, but we would need some sort of storage facility. And it doesn't have to be, as I said, state of the art. It can be, as long as it does the job it's intended to do and our equipment is safe and secure, we're happy with that.
Okay, that's good to know.
Anyone else have anything they want to share?
Well, I want to thank you all again for joining us, and please, feel free to email me if anything else comes to mind. We'd love to, get some survey responses as well, and we look forward to, working with you on this project in the future. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you very much.
a wonderful presentation, and look forward to the next session again. It's been very enlightening, and thank you very much for all you've presented this evening.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Yeah,
everyone.
good night. Have a good night. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.